believe we do have a quorum now, and it is 1:30. So I will call this meeting to order. The Public Safety, Finance, and Strategic Support Committee on June 17th. And if we can get a roll call, please.
Arenas, Jones, Mahan,
Here.
Jimenez,
Present.
Perales.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. And we have our review of our work plan. Any items recommended to be added, dropped, or deferred? Nothing from staff, anything from my colleagues. And we've had, I've seen mixed reviews on this lately on whether or not we need to take the vote if we don't have any changes. And I believe we just, the last one, which the mayor had ran, didn't need a vote. So is it comfortable that we skip over a vote on this one from the city attorney's office?
Hi, this is Tony. I don't know if the city attorney's office is present, but if the orders of the day are not changing, you can just move forward.
Great, thank you. So we do have consent calendar. We do have one item on consent. And I see we do have one speaker. So we'll go to members of the public first, and we'll go to Blair Beekman.
Hi, thank you. Blair Beekman. Happy Thursday. I'm interested in, you talk a lot about general fund ideas in your memorandum. And general fund works different than, say, other infrastructure projects like, say, Measure T, and how that builds on infrastructure ideas. And it's my assumption, in this era of COVID, infrastructure building and, investing, it's done really, really well. And, people of high income this can be a time they've really have made like a lot more money than usual. So, if for them, that transposes to, better practices within government too, which, describes things like the bond market. And, I suppose that will be a more interesting question in this upcoming decade for ourselves, and which is actually like really decent thinking in a way. So I just wanted to mention that. I wanted to mention, you talk about community energy issues. And it reminded me of just a reminder of the importance of subsidies and the funding processes that the subsidy process brings to us as a local community, and what it can help develop and give comfort to ourselves as a community. And just a friendly reminder, just to be open with each other, how to talk about these subjects. It does not have to be a voodoo subject. It does not have to be a subject of communist sin. This is a really important, good stuff, and it's important to our lives. I hope we learn how to speak openly and not be afraid of it on all sides. Thanks.
Thank you, Blair. All right, and now if we can get a motion to approve consent item.
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
And a second. If we can do a roll call vote, please.
Arenas, Jones, Mahan,
Aye.
Jimenez,
Yes.
Perales.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Motion passes unanimously. Now we'll go down to item D1. We only have one regular agenda item. This is our Police Department Operations and Performance bi-monthly status report. And I see we have Lieutenant Donahue with us here. I'll turn it over to him.
Set my screen up here, Chair. All right, Councilmember, can you see that?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you and good afternoon. My name is Lieutenant Steve Donahue. I am the commander of the Research and Development Unit of the San Jose Police Department. And today I'll be presenting our department's bi-monthly operations performance status report. We'll be covering part one, city crime statistics. Then we'll be presenting on other matters of interest, including our gender-based violence response and strategy work plan update and the redistricting update, and then I'll be available for questions. We'll begin with our citywide part one UCR crime statistics. As you can see, under violent offenses, we've had an increase of 17% attributable to the recent homicides and an increase in aggravated assaults when compared to the same period last year. When we look at property crimes, we see larceny having a significant reduction of 10%. And in the last committee meeting, I presented on vehicle thefts as an emerging issue with 49% increasing comparing the first 2 months of this year to the first 2 months of last year. And as you can see, we're down to a 24% change when it's diluted between the first 4 months of this year and the first 4 months of last year. Now we'll move on to other matters of interest. We'll begin with our gender-based violence response and strategy work plan update. When we look at rape offenses during this period compared to the prior 4 years, we see a reduction in rape by 8% and a reduction in penetration with a foreign object by 2%. We are going to continue seeing increases in spousal rape and domestic rape when compared to the averages of the prior 4 years. And this is, as reported by Lieutenant Jimenez earlier this year, likely attributable to the intersectionality tool that we've implemented. These charts show the current status of both the city and county-wide work items since the inception of the work plan. And the following 2 slides are going to provide greater detail on the work items that are currently open or have been completed, but these slides show everything. Under the San Jose specific items, we note that items 1 and 2 are completed based on the presentation to committee that I'm doing right now, and you'll receive the item number 2 SART information on a later slide. Item number 3, the school intervention training is completed and an independent evaluation is due at the end of this month. This is going to be reported back to this committee in a later update by the Sexual Assault Investigations Unit and Special Victims Unit. Item number 4, regarding the addition of 2 crime and data analysts, was completed in the mayor's budget addendum number 19. When we look at the county-wide specific items, we're working with the County Office of Gender-Based Violence Prevention on the ethnic-based agency work group, and we are continuing the strangulation evidence collection in the Western Division pilot program reported to this committee by the Family Violence Unit. Regarding the Sexual Assault Bill of Rights, we are continuing to work on creating duty manual sections requiring compliance with the Bill of Rights and requiring department personnel to provide Marcy's cards to survivors. We are continuing to evaluate the best way to format our department resource cards to ensure they provide the most up-to-date and comprehensive information to survivors. And you'll notice that we're marking the final prong of our approach to the Sexual Assault Bill of Rights as completed. We feel that we have excellent lines of communication with our advocate and community partners. We're on the forefront of best practices, and we are providing the highest level of support to our survivors. We will, of course, continue to work in these areas, but we are very proud of how far we've come in the last year, especially in our approach to gender-based violence. During the joint city-county meeting held on April 29th, the city manager was directed to work with the county to form a working group to identify the best approach to pediatric SARTs and to report those findings back to this committee. This has been postponed and will be reported back to the committee at the September 16th meeting. Also, from the April 29th meeting, we were asked to provide the numbers of SART exam qualifications during our bi-monthly reports to this committee. During March and April, there were 46 qualified adult SARTs and 18 qualified juvenile SARTs. And you'll notice that I'm using the term qualified, not approved. This is because we believe qualified is the most appropriate term, and approval indicates that there is some kind of decision that's being made. And when we're discussing these sexual assault exams, it's not about a decision. Rather, it's a determination of whether or not the criteria qualifies for a medical examination. So when we take a deeper dive into the reasons adult and juvenile SARTs may not be qualified, there may be several reasons. For example, the case could be transferred to or have occurred in another agency's jurisdiction. And in these cases, SART authorization needs to come from that agency having jurisdiction over the investigation and prosecution. The SART exam may still occur locally, like at VMC, but we can't commit another agency's funds to pay for the SART. So as a result, we may be working with that agency to qualify and pay for the SART. Another reason could be that the amount of time passing between the incident and the reporting was so great that there was no evidentiary value from the exam. So for example, there may be delayed reporting of months or years. And finally, the case may be determined to be or to have exculpatory evidence that would prove it unfounded or have not occurred, and that may be discovered prior to the opportunity for SART. And these instances are rare, but they still could be a qualifying factor for the SART not qualifying. As you can see, we're also reporting to the committee the numbers available regarding whether or not the survivor chose to move forward with the SART examination. 37 of the qualified individuals chose to move forward with their examination during March and April, while 23 did not. And the outcome is still unknown in 2 of the cases. The last time I reported the redistricting update to this community, I was asked to include an expected timeline for each of the phases. I've added those dates at the top of each of the phase descriptions. So as you can see, we're currently in phase 1. We expect to have the RFP completed in late fall and have a vendor selected by the end of the year. We'll be establishing a working group of subject matter experts in the fall, and they are going to help design the RFP framework. And now I'm available for any questions.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation. We'll go over to members of the public first. And first up will be Paul Soto. And Paul, I believe, oh, you're not unmuted yet, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Paul Soto, thank you for that report. I'm sorry for your, I don't remember, but Mr. Donahue, sorry, I don't remember your title, but there's a subjective point where the officer makes a determination as to whether or not a crime occurred. That is subjective. It's based on his training, but it also can be influenced by his biases. And I've experienced that. You see, all of the protocols that you have set in place right now, they're good. The trauma informed, excellent. Okay, but the point of contact, if the officer decides, based on his experience and all that a crime did not occur, it doesn't trigger any of that. But yet the victim knows what they just experienced, and they're swirling around in this vortex of confusion. And we talked about this at the last PISFIS meeting, that when the officer makes that determination, and it could be made based on a lot of reasons. I believe mine because I was a victim of sexual assault recently. And because of that, I was sent away, no information, no anything. And in fact, I got evicted as a result of my reaction to what happened to me. And then I got this pamphlet from the YWCA because I needed counseling. And so I got this pamphlet from it, and I looked at all the symptoms of somebody that has been victimized of a sexual assault. And I fit every criteria in terms of my reaction. And the officer that drove up on that incident, because he determined that a crime wasn't committed, then that means that my reaction to what happened was simply because I intended to be morally offended by what just happened to me. You see, I know you see what I'm talking about. So what needs to happen is at the reporting of the crime, not whether a crime committed. Thank you.
And next up will be Blair.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thanks a lot for the words of Paul. You know, he's gone through a lot, and his story to me is a real clear example of the importance of a future of a peer review program with policing. And you're introducing it, I've understood, with domestic violence issues. I hope it can grow, to handle what Paul has gone through, and that there can be, police peer review that where they just talk to each other and learn how to be more open and with good practices developed to have conversation. And I think the peer review program offers something incredibly promising for ourselves as an entire community. I think it can really, I hope it can grow throughout the whole department and for different uses and reasons. And I think it can allow a lot more openness in dialogue and make things easier to understand and talk about and work on, and can address problems of what Paul's going through and exactly, to better address what he's going through. Good luck with the, that we're coming out of COVID, how to address things. The issues of guns in San Jose, the interstate gun sale issue is really important to me. You talked about straw buyers recently. Interstate gun sales themselves, I think, is a really important consideration, and the same with fireworks. Is there someone from San Jose who could talk to someone at the state and federal level to develop some sort of relationship there that I think can really help a lot? And I had a few more items to talk about. I wanted to talk about a bit of the pay raise issue. I'll talk about that at open forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Blair. And that concludes our public speakers. I'll bring it back to members of the committee. First up will be Matt. Go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. Hi, everyone. One quick note, it was just brought to my attention that our meeting was streaming on channel 26 and then just abruptly cut off. So I don't know if anyone is able to look into that, but I just wanted to flag that that method of public access may not be available right now. My question, Lieutenant, thanks for the report, and thank you all for the great work that's going on in the department. Obviously, the rise in violent crime is concerning, and I know we're not alone in that. I've been reading a lot about that trend across the country, but just wanted to try to get a little more perspective from you on what we think is driving that. And obviously I've got some theories, but what's driving that, and maybe more importantly, what our best levers are for trying to stem that trend.
Thank you for your question, Councilmember. Yeah, I was actually reading 2 weeks ago. I started seeing all these articles coming out, Washington Post, The Economist. There's all these articles nationwide saying, hey, there's a spike in crime, temperatures are rising, people are hitting the streets again after COVID, and things are opening up, and it's creating an increase of crime, especially when you compare it to the COVID period last year, right, when people were all sheltering in place. So however, we do have some issues with aggravated assaults, and we believe that one of the most significant factors on aggravated assaults, particularly here in this area, is going to be the zero bail and the Public Safety Realignment Act. For example, on January 26th of this year, the Santa Clara County extended zero bail until June 30th of this year. And this order ensures that people are released from jail with no detention or bail consequence for crimes other than serious felonies, violent felonies, domestic violence, some sexual assault, and child abuse related crimes. So we looked at the categorization of an assault as an aggravated assault, which means it involved a firearm, knife, or a cutting instrument or other dangerous weapon, or was like a strong arm, right, versus hands and fists and feet and stuff. And so for the purposes of zero bail, a lot of the things that are categorized as aggravated assaults do not qualify under violent or serious felonies. So while we report them out to UCR as aggravated assaults, they're getting released with zero bail from county jail. And so these crimes that we've seen arising compared to last year, we've seen it across the board on several things, with vehicle thefts, with burglaries, and aggravated assaults. We're having subjects that are booked and they're immediately released. And then on top of that, we're seeing a lot more firearms on the streets, and we've seen a lot of ghost guns in 2020. Last year, we recovered 49% more firearms than we recovered the year before. And so you combine these factors and you're seeing the rise in aggravated assaults. And yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that extra context. It's definitely concerning. And I'm aware that it's a shift from a year ago, but as I look at your 5-year average, it actually looks like right now we're at least for this time period, this January to April time period, we're actually ahead of the 5-year average. for 3 out of those 4 categories, not robberies, interestingly, but if I'm reading the chart correctly, we're ahead and actually kind of significantly ahead in a couple of those categories, homicides and aggravated assault. So obviously something to keep our eye on. That's interesting. Okay, I was also just notified that Channel 26 is back on. So thank you if somebody did something there, but sounds like we're back on. Okay, and Lieutenant, I mean, just to follow up on that, is there anything, I mean, I guess specifically around homicides and aggravated assault, are there any strategies we're pursuing around violence interruption that are worth highlighting? Is there anything new we're trying, or is it too soon to try new things versus what we already do? I mean, obviously it's not a long-term trend in San Jose. It's just, and it is something that we're seeing nationally, but obviously it's something we don't want to see continue to go in that direction.
Totally understandable, council member. We're looking at our trends and patterns, and we're working with our gang investigations and our assaults units. The homicide unit has obviously been busy lately, and so we are trying to establish whether or not there's going to be a targeted enforcement that would be effective to quell this issue. And we don't want to react with that target with just anything, just to throw rocks at the wall.
Yeah.
We want to basically focus our efforts to ensure that we have the most effective response to this, especially with our limited personnel. So
that makes sense. Yeah, and I think you anticipated my follow-up to that, which was going to be if we know what percentage of these are gang related. And it sounds like you're still trying to figure that out.
Yeah, we're still figuring that out. You know, we have the difference between gang related and gang involved, right? And so based on the investigation will help determine whether or not it's just gang involved versus gang related.
Got it. And is that something you think you can share with us in 2 months' time when we receive this report again?
Absolutely. We can report back on gang statistics at that time. We'd be happy to.
Okay. Well, I guess, thank you. I appreciate it. And I don't want to be too prescriptive, whatever you think is most helpful. I just, as we were both mentioning, reading quite a bit about this trend nationally, and we'll have to see how it plays out. At least I, for one, would be very interested in closely following and better understanding the rise in violent crime and you know what we understand about it, and therefore what we think we can do to kind of intervene and stop that trend. But that was my primary focus. So again, appreciate the report and everybody's great work. And Chair, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I don't see any other hands. I just want to say thank you. Oh, Lieutenant Donahue.
Yeah, sorry, I just want to clarify something with Councilmember Mahan. I think our next bi-monthly isn't until September.
Oh,
I
right.
don't think I have one in August. So do you want me to report that back out to you in September?
Oh, no, yeah, sure. Whenever the next, I know these are bi-monthly, but I forgot that July is, we're on the recess. So yeah, that's fine. Whenever it would normally come back up is perfectly fine.
Sounds great. We'll have that for you in September.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And we know that's one of the benefits we have and that we included here with this update is that committee members can make a request for particular items that we might want to hear a specific update on, that we allow that to be pretty fluid. So it's not baked into the work plan. It's sort of just an opening in the work plan. And so, you know, happy to take those requests, and thank you, Councilor Mahan, for making that. And I'm gonna pull back up the slide. I had one question, but I believe you clarified it within your presentation. So actually, I don't have any other questions. So that's it. So we can take a motion to approve and
Move to approve.
Second.
And if we get a roll call vote, please.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jimenez,
Aye.
Peralez.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Motion passes unanimously. That'll now move us on to open forum. And we'll go over first to Paul Soto.
Thank you, Peralez. I'd like that video check to see the time periods. If the time period that it cut off was at the time that I was speaking. Secondly, an officer called up my probation officer after my piss fist participation in calling him out for what it is, the way that he treated me while reporting that sexual assault. What he did is he called the probation department and said that I should have been the one that was arrested. Said that I was acting aggressive and that I was yelling and screaming. When I read the what are the symptoms of somebody that's been impacted by a sexual assault, I fit every single one of them precisely. So basically, what the police department did was leverage their authority and power not to file a police report, because if I should have been arrested, why didn't you produce a police report on site? Arrest me. If I did something wrong, arrest me, lock me up. If I didn't do something wrong, leave me alone. But you didn't. What the police department did, not the police department, I'm not going to say that, these officers, because I know you got factions in there. This dude called up and had me locked up. Interestingly enough, as the probation report was read, that the judge doesn't know nothing. All they're doing is the reading. That phone call that police officer made was not in the report. And what that means is that a document, a legal document that was produced by the police department that was predicated upon that phone call from the officer was not in that report. All that was there was what the police officer said to the probation department, and that was used as a basis to arrest me. I got out 2 days ago. I've been gone since then. That police officer that made that call, he stole something from me. I have been at this for 3 years to participate in that Google meeting. For 3 years, I've been working diligently, and he stole that from me. I was locked up in a cell in Elmwood while I'm reading about it. I want good relationships with the police department. I respect that badge. I respect SJPD, but they must uphold a standard and understand that their whole function is not to protect capitalism or people like Mayhem. It is to protect those that cannot protect themselves. And I had no protections against that. And it was because of my participation in this meeting.
Thank you, Paul. And I'm sorry for that experience. I actually was wondering where you had been and why you had missed some of those meetings. I know that you were very much looking forward to. Okay, we'll go over to Blair now.
Hi, boy, that was really hard to hear. And a really good lesson that, thank you, Paul, for describing that, police really need to learn an important lesson about how they're policing low-income communities and what that exactly means. And Paul labeled it very well, what we all have to work on in San Jose in the future of policing. That sounds like it really shouldn't happen to Paul what happened. And we really got to, at least it can be a good example for us how to improve. I wanted to comment that I wanted to thank the SJPD for, I think, with their sideshow issues and the ALPRs, that they use trailers. They use them sparingly and only for short periods of time. To do that really quickly is really important. Do it for a weekend, to do it for 2 days, and not just leave them there and leave them there. That's good policing. That's good technology practices. That's good community practices. It's practicing minimal practices, and that's what we need for the future of technology. I wanted to quickly comment on the wage increase issue, that SJPD got such a nice raise, and with that Measure T is totally funding police programs 3 times as much as a few years ago. Plus, I think general fund, they're doing okay. So, and they got a new police station on the horizon. So they have nothing to complain about. And if they could take perhaps a 0.25 dip in their most recent contract and allow city workers a 0.25% rise or around something like that, that's a hopeful sign. And just to thank you so much for this being like the quickest piss meeting I think we've ever had. That that it was a great meeting in May with community about the future of Reimagine. I hope we can have a Reimagine task force for the next few years. It'll invite a lot of positive community things. Thanks.
Thank you, Blair. And that does conclude this meeting. Have a good afternoon.